Okay, let's talk about keywords. I've been mentioning all the while in the previous sessions. Yeah, you need to mention the keywords. So, what exactly are keywords? So, keywords are something like, which would emphasize your skill in one word or one phrase, or a term which is used in generic in the job market, right? Say, for example, it could be a technical skill, some words, some phrases which are very common, uh, which you use to define your particular skill, right? Say, for example, let's take example of, a digital design, okay? Say, say, for example, when you do a VHDL coding or a Verilog coding, okay? In the Indian subcontinent, in Asian region, we call it as RTL coding, right? Whereas the same thing in European subcontinent, it's called as IC design. They generally term it as digital IC design. Right? So the design is the same thing, the language, the skill is the same thing, but the words what are used, what are interpreted in different subcontinents of the world is very different. So what I'm trying to say here is when you're mentioning any keyword, right? You got to mention digital design, right? You need to mention RTL coding as well, or an IC design as well. So whenever you're mentioning the skills or the keywords in your summary, you need to distribute the keywords in such a way all across your resume that you're using all the three keywords in three different places, right? I mean, obviously, it would mean the same thing if you say RTL design, digital design, VHDL coding, Verilog coding, for example, in one place. No, I would say in one line, if you've used the word as RTL coding, right, digital design using RTL coding, at another place wherever you have, be it the skill over here or in the projects, you might as well use IC design. Now, what I'm trying to convey here is try to use different synonyms of keywords so that no matter what keyword the HR or the recruiter uses, your resume should pop up. That's the trick over here. Okay. No matter, yes, it might mean the same thing, right? But the way you put across things, the way you use the synonyms at different locations will matter a lot. The moment they search in the keyword, your resume should pop in and they should be able to see your profile. So that's what is the keyword all about. So another thing over here is if you just see, right, this is just a simple, job requirement, right? You might ask me, how do I get the keywords? Right. Some of them, yes, based on your experience, based on whatever skills you're aware of, you might be knowing that, yeah, this is the skill what I know, right? But the other way around to look at the keywords is very simple. Just open up any job description, something like this, right? Generally, a job description says should have basic understanding of electrical and electronic concepts. Assuming that I'm an analog layout engineer and I have to build a resume, right? And what are the skills what I will need? Same thing implies for the digital engineers or software guys or different genres, different skills. Here I have taken an example of this particular design here. So I would use the electrical and electronics. So I would say bachelor's in ENC, right? Or I can put it in bracket electronics and communication, right? So when the HR types in EC with percentage above so much, your resume should pop up, right? Should have understanding of ASIC flows, basic CMOS fabrication, hands-on exposure, right? Having FinFET exposure, right? Exposure means, being aware of it, but hands-on is something which you've actually done, right? So say, for example, the names of the tools, the names of the companies. Now, for example, these tools are used in the industry, layout tools, schematic tools. These are all the keywords what we use, right? Virtuoso is a tool, layout tool. IC compiler is the same layout tool, but from a different company, right? You never know which company is looking for what kind of a skill, right? So you mentioned both in a different way. Should have exposure to so and so, should have hands-on skill on physical verification. Now, if you see here, all these are physical verification tools, right? I mean, yes, Caliber is a flagship product, but PVS is another verification tool from Cadence, Synopsys, right? I'm using the same to do the physical verification. I could have just used only Caliber, but I have worked on all these things, all these tools as well. But you never know which company uses which tool, right? Which HR is looking for what kind of a tool, right? So I'm trying to gather the keywords from the job description itself. So what I would suggest is you open up two or three job descriptions like this. Okay, you will get so many keywords which you can phrase them in your summary section and your job description section. I mean, obviously, whatever you know, but if you need more uh, keywords, whatever the job recruiters, the HRs are using, easiest way is open up a job description. You'll get so many keywords, right? So, for example, if you're doing a layout design, right, you might it is a must that you should be knowing matching concepts. At one place, you might write matching concepts, another place you might write, uh, you know, interdigitation or common center. These are the detailed techniques, right? These are some things, for example, latch ups or matching concepts, differential pairs. All these things are something which is basically required by a layout design engineer. It's mandatory thing that when you call yourself a layout engineer, you should know these things. Likewise, you will have certain skills, certain keywords which you would want to highlight. Be it a digital guy, be it a timing guy, be it a physical design person. If it's a PD person, you might mention, saying that clock timing, clock tree synthesis or timing, setup, hold, all these keywords, and obviously you will need some scripting skill, right? Something which will help you automate your work. So you might have learned something in your engineering or something of that sort. One tricky thing over here is the skills, what you're confident about, right? What you're good at, what you're confident about. It's better you mention it on the top. The things skills which you are not that confident, you're okay with that, you're average on that, probably you can mention a little lower, right? So you can take a call whether you want to have, you can put, depending on whether you're applying for a technical role or a non-technical role. If it's technical, highlight the technical skills first, and later part of the summary you can mention a non-technical skills. As I mentioned, should have good verbal and written communication skills, should be able to execute the work independently, all those kind of stuff, you can mention a little on the lower ranking or the order, right? So another important thing here is let's take a little more deeper. This is all about your keywords. Okay, so most importantly you have to mention as many keywords as possible in your resume. Try to incorporate as many keywords as possible. Okay, so that's the main trick for your resume to pop up in front of a HR or a recruiter. Okay. Let's move to the next slide here, and let's take an example. As I mentioned in the previous slide, let's take an example of analog layout profile, right? Say, be it a fresher or a trained candidate. Let's see how should a fresher's resume look like. I mean, in between, I would also be mentioning about experience profile as well, a little bit of tips here and there. One thing to keep in mind whenever you're making a fresh resume, right, is for a fresher or a trained candidate, be it any profile, right, it should not be more than 2 pages. You've, that's the thumb rule. You cannot write lengthy stories or project descriptions or a big stuff. No, this is a very short handout. Whatever you have to say, you tell it in the interview, right? Give the gist of what is your qualification, what skill you can do for them. Right? Nobody has time to dig deep and read all your projects and synopsis and all of those details. Right? So strict instruction for freshers and trained candidates is do not have a resume more than 2 pages. That's the rule of thumb. Okay. So let's dig a little more deeper into, which we have already spoken. We have given the sections before, but here I have written the skills in detail so that based on the similar lines, you can prepare your own resume. I have taken the profile of analog layout profile, as I mentioned. What your resume, you write your mobile number, write a decent, valid email ID. Right? Say you've written bachelor's. Yes, this is what I want to highlight. BE, some people call it BE, bachelor's, grads, depends. Be in electronics and communication. If you want, you can write bracket inside the bracket ENC, right? Now, this person is probably trained in analog layout profile, right? So your core competency, what is this core skill? What you can do is, yes, I can do custom IC layout design. I can do analog designs, digital design, mixed signal design, and I can of what is the size of the design, what you can do. I can do small modules. I can do a little bit bigger macros as well, right? And I can do physical verification, right? Which is DRC and LVS. You can write ERC or whatever the later stuff if you are aware of. In one sentence, I'm trying to give a very crisp information. So try to use the words very wisely. Now, as far as the physical design or the layout job goes, right? There are different technologies. You've got bulk CMOS, planar CMOS, FinFETs, or SOI process. Right? If you see over here, hands-on experience. I've not written knowledge, hands-on, which means I have actually worked on it. Right? Now, bulk and planar are the same. Some people in some part of the world they call it as bulk CMOS. In some places they call it as planar CMOS. But I have written both. I have used the keywords. It's just to cover the keywords, as many keywords as possible, right? Obviously, FinFET is FinFET, SOI is SOI, right? So the way I'm putting it across is I'm not just writing bulk CMOS or planar CMOS or just the CMOS process. I'm using both the keywords. These are just the synonyms, but they mean the same thing. Right? Now, technical activities, whatever I've got hands-on skill, I've done some simulations, you've done layout design. Now, layout is also called as mask design. So I've not just written layout over here, I have written layout slash mask, right? So that's the way you got to look for keywords now. Say, for example, what designs have I done? What have I done in my labs or whatever I done in my actual projects or, while I've been doing my job, I've done these designs. These are some keywords which is like majorly used in your analog designs. Op amps are used, level shifters, DACs, band pass filters, LDOs, some clamp circuits, some custom digital basic gates, all of that. These are more of generic stuff, which I guess till date used, when you're designing. Now, whatever the specific skills, whatever is required, while we are doing analog layout, I have mentioned here, yes, matching techniques for current mirrors and differential pairs are they majorly constitute the analog design. They're used quite a lot in analog designs. The techniques, obviously, you have to take care of IR, you have to take care of EM, that is electron migration. At some place, I might say EM, electron migration. Some place, I will mention IR. At another place, I will say voltage drop. At one place, I might just say IR drop, right? And multi-voltage designs or shielding. And likewise, what I'm trying to do here is some things are similar, but I'm using the synonyms as well, making a sentence as crisp, as short as possible. Obviously, the last one, as I mentioned, I would be writing verbal, written communication skills or all of the non-technical stuff. Right? I mean, obviously, the qualification. The next section, what I had shown is the qualification. Bachelor's from so and so institute, but so and so percentage passed out here. Right? So some people prefer to write 10th and 12th. Some people wouldn't prefer. They just write masters and bachelors, depending on your experience. If you're a fresher, it is obviously expected by the HRs and recruiters that you have a consistency in your performance, in your grades. So for freshers and trained candidates, I would advise you mention 10th, 12th, and bachelor's or your master's as well. But if you are experienced, just bachelor's and master's or just the bachelor's and 12 will be more than enough. Right. Now coming to the technical skills over here. I'm specifically focusing only on this profile, say circuit description language. It could be like you have for software guys, you've got C language, you've got C++, who's blah blah, XYZ, all kind of languages. But for electronics or an electrical person, right? What skills? You have circuit design at transistor level, at gate level, or digital design. When you are using your VHDL coding or Verilog coding, obviously you would have learned that in your engineering, right? So you might as well mention that is a circuit description language. It could be digital or analog, right? It's up to you what you want to mention. What are you good at? If you are strong in circuit design, you might as well mention that. If you are good in VHDL and Verilog, you might as well mention that, because even that is a digital circuit description language. So circuit simulation programs. Why I have split it separately is because you have different tools to run different designs. Say you use the Verilog or VHDL simulator model sim, for example, to do the digital design. To do your analog simulation, that's your CMOS or your SPICE simulation, you use AD environment, you use PSpice, you use LT Spice. Different tools are used for different purpose. Now, because it's a layout profile, yes, you have to be able to do physical design, that is your analog layout design and verification as well. So I've mentioned, like, full custom layout design, schematic driven layout design. I know matching techniques over here, right? Integration of, I mean, what I'm trying to convey over here is I'm not only skillful in doing tiny modules, but as well I have handled the bigger modules as well. Whatever tools you have mentioned, right? Some people prefer that they should use cadence related tools, Metagraphics, or synopsis related tools. So I have not just mentioned the name of the tool, I prefer to mention the name of the company as well. So it depends. You never know what the HR would look for. Cadence layout tool, right? So it's better you mention the name of the tool as well as name of the company. Hardly one word. Programming languages. Probably you can write non-technical skills and write the other non-technical skills as well, right? So I would say your technical section should emphasize on whatever hands-on skill you can do for them. Now, projects. Say I've written project one, for example, and so and so design is there. So whatever the analog layout related designs I have done, right? I would mention it as a list. I've mentioned some of the names in the skill, what do you call the summary section itself, some generic names over here. Now, one thing to keep in mind here is the difference between who looks at your summary section and who looks at your detailed project section. This section is looked by your recruiters and HRs, right? Now, whatever summary, whatever skills you have written here, right, you should have used them while you're doing your projects. So that's what a technical lead or a technical manager looks for. Yes, this guy in summary, he or she has written so many keywords, but has this person used these skills while doing the projects? So if you look for carefully, right, I have written the names of the projects, analog designs, these are the designs I've worked on, digital designs, these are designs I have worked on, right? What was my responsibility? You don't have to write a detailed project description or a big paragraph of what is a project. No, you have to speak in the interview. Just write the name of it, whatever the designs you have done, and what was your role. Obviously, you're not the only person who's working on the project, right? So there, what was your role in doing these projects? You have written clearly, distinctively that yes, these are the designs what you've worked. But if it's a bigger project, say there's a TX or a RX or a PLL, a bigger design. Now, this resume is of a fresher or a trained candidate. But if you're an experienced person, right, it becomes very clear that what is your role. There'll be n number of modules, and you can't do single-handedly. It'll be a teamwork. So, what was your role? What did you do in that project? Right here, since it's a trained candidate, he or she has done this layout of it. They've done verification, what technology they have worked, what techniques they have used, what verification they have done. If you observe here, the verification keywords here, right? I mean, yeah, I've forgotten to mention this in the summary. Yes, even this can be mentioned, right? Layout editor, tool, AMS layout design. Look at the summary section. You've got CMOS, you've got FinFET, you've got physical verification, analog mixed signal, right? Current mirror, differential pair, interdigitation. Majority of the keywords what I've mentioned in the summary, I have actually used those skills while doing my project. This is how a technical lead or a manager will confirm that yes, this guy has actually used these skills to do the job, right? So likewise, depending on your experience, you would know what to mention, what keywords to mention, what skills to mention. You can mention accordingly. If you mentioned it in the summary, you better mention that skill as one of your key responsibilities, that you have used that skill to do the job while you were in the project. So that clearly kind of certifies that yes, you have done hands-on on that particular skill and you have not just mentioned in the summary section just for the heck of it. Likewise, say there's another project. It all depends how many people were there. What this is a some XYZ project over here. How many people were there? What was your role? What did you do? Most importantly, you are trying to highlight what did you do in the project. While in the interview, you need to mention that yes, this was the whole project. This is what we were trying to achieve. The so and so blah 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 modules. My share of work was this. This is what I did, and that's what I have mentioned over here. Nobody's interested in knowing what your other teammates did. What you did is what you have to mention over here, right? So now, again, as I mentioned over here, I've already mentioned in the previous slide, this is what the technical manager looks for. These are the keywords: analog, layout, design, custom, digital, module names, all this, whichever I just highlighted in the previous slide, exactly the same. This is what the technical lead or the manager looks for and confirms. Update your resume regularly. Now, the project, whatever you're working, might last for 3 months, 4 months, or 6 months, or sometimes a year. You don't know. You might have worked on n number of modules. In due course of time, you would end up forgetting things, right? You might have worked on 10 to 20 different modules here. But what technique did you use? Say one module, you might have done some routing related matching or routing related stuff. In some design, you might have taken care of capacitance. In some design, you might have done a very compact layout or some module, or this design might be very crucial, current based on current or EMIR related aspects of it. You might have fixed EMIR issues, you might have fixed shielding related issues, you might have done some critical timing related issues. You will not be able to remember everything if you just update your resume once a while. No, I would sincerely advise that whenever you finish your project or finish your module, immediately have an editing version constantly updating. When you have to refine it, you can sit and refine it later, but keep collecting the data as and when you finish your project work. That's one sincere advice, because you will surely tend to forget whatever you have done in your due course. Say you are in a company for 3 years, 4 years, and say one fine day you decide to look for better options. You would have forgotten what you have done 1 year ago. Right? Who will you ask? The project is done, the design is shelved, everything is done. You're back to square one. You don't know what to write in your resume. You would just think, yeah, I have worked so much, but I don't have any content to write in my resume. So better be safe. You might as well write the moment you finish a project, update that skill in your resume. Keep it aside so that once you decide to move out or whatever, you look for a change, you have the data ready with you. Right? And another most important thing here is proper formatting. So, it is very, very important that each and every section, the font what you're using, the size what you're using should have consistency. You cannot have very haphazard lines in your resume not ending properly. Your headings, say for example over here, uh, yeah, let's take this. Your projects, your section, the bifurcating sections over here. You just go back to, yeah, right? Your name should be centered, resume is centered. You mention your name over here, or you can write a resume, whatever. It's up to you, right? And your mobile, email ID. If you see this, indenting is the same, right? The sections what you have defined, they're of the same size. The font what I've used is of the same size, and the bullets what I've used are of the same type. So if I've used this of the particular size, particular font, It is important that you use same thing across different sections. If you're using Times New Roman or Calibri or any of the other fonts, you maintain the same thing. And it has to have a proper consistency. It should look neat and nice whenever you're mentioning your resume. Okay, so that's all about your preparing your resume, collecting data, highlighting the keywords, and proper updating your resume regularly, proper formatting. So this is all about uh, creating a proper professional resume. All the best. This is Semiotics for you, trying to create a path to the semiconductor industry. Thank you.